Let's talk about one of, in my opinion, the worst parts of the game, especially early on: screws. So many production materials need screws, but in order to make enough screws for your needs, it feels as if you have to build a mini screw factory for each other factory that you want to build, in order to get the amount of screws that you need. It takes 1 iron rod to produce 4 screws, at a rate of 10 iron rods per minute to 40 screws per minute. But let's take a look at how many screws we need per recipe. For your basic reinforced iron plate, you need 12 screws for 1 reinforced iron plate, or 60 screws per minute for 5 reinforced plate per minute. Looking at modular frames, you need 3 reinforced plate for just 2 modular frames. So to fulfill 1 modular frame recipe, you need 180 screws per minute. That's almost 1,000 screws just to get 10 modular frames per minute. A pretty basic resource in the grand scheme of things. Not only is it resource heavy, it takes up a lot of space too. This simple combination of 2 manifolds is required if you want to make 240 screws per minute. So how are we supposed to handle all these screws without going insane? Alternate recipes can be a game changer here. Now, a lot of people will recommend cast screws, which takes iron ingot and turns it directly into screws, avoiding the iron rod step altogether. This is great. It saves so much space, but it's actually not saving any resource. As you can see, it takes 12.5 iron ingots per minute to produce 50 screws per minute. If you do some math, this actually translates to exactly the same amount of iron ingots if you were following the original recipe. Now, what if there was a better way than cast screws? Just getting rid of screws altogether. Now, screws are mainly used in an assembler to create things like reinforced iron plate, modular frames, and rotors. However, all 3 of these recipes have alternates that don't use screws at all. For example, stitched iron plate, steeled frames, and steel rotors. Screws are also used in a manufacturer to create heavy modular frames, but like the other 3, there is also an alternate that avoids screws altogether: heavy encased frames. Let's take a look at stitched iron plate, which takes 10 iron plate and 20 wire to make 3 reinforced plate. Now, if we combine this with another alternate recipe, iron wire, we avoid bringing in a second resource, and we create something that is much more efficient both in space and material than the original recipe. Taking a look at this factory, this uses the original recipe and original route of creating screws to create 20 reinforced plate per minute, while taking 240 iron ore per minute to do so. Now, taking a look at this factory, we can see that it's much more compact. There are less smelters and there are less constructors. Using both stitched iron plate and iron wire, we are able to create the same amount of reinforced plates per minute. And we do all of this while only taking 174 iron ore per minute, which is much more resource efficient. So next time you're out hunting to find hard drives to research in the MAM, skip the cast iron screws, skip the fancy coal and fancy copper sheets, and go with an alternate that gets rid of screws altogether.